Hey everybody, welcome to your Taurus horoscopes for the week of the 13th to the 19th. We're moving into the shadow period of that Mercury retrograde, which is going to be in Virgo, which means it's in another earth sign. And actually, that's not a bad thing for you guys because any lineup of planets is going to happen in a favorable way. So you actually might be able to use that Mercury retrograde to your advantage. Think about that. And you probably will also, because we have a lot of stuff going on with Jupiter and Uranus, of course, continuing to be in Taurus. Uranus also goes retrograde, I do believe, next week. Or actually, no, it's the week after. I do believe it's the week after. So we're coming up to that. Essentially, we're in the shadow period of that at this particular point as well, which may make things a little bit confusing because the energy that Uranus has been putting into your life, specifically your relationships this week, is sort of changing. And you may see the change, but not necessarily realize why the change is happening, I guess, if that makes sense. So we do have Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. They're moving closer into conjunction with each other, but they're not quite there yet. I do feel that Uranus going retrograde is going to help with that, but we have Jupiter going retrograde probably next week. I'm sorry, not next week. I do believe it's next month that Jupiter goes retrograde. But both planets are lining up in a grand trine and a grand sextile. These are two really big, very helpful aspects working together for you guys. So actually, this is a really big deal. But we do, of course, have some challenges because we have that retrograde Mercury, which is in another fixed sign. So, of course, both planets are going to square up with that, as well as the sun, which is sort of in conjunction with that retrograde Venus. But of course, it's in the same sign. So they're both in the same sign, conjunction or no conjunction. And both planets, unfortunately, are lining up in an unfavorable way. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to go into all the glorious awesomeness that comes from the rest of what's going on here. So a little bit of a challenge here in terms of the Sun and Venus's focus on your career. This is actually very interesting that your ruling planet of Venus in retrograde, you're squared with it, and it is running your business. It's really bizarre, but you got to look at it with a bigger viewpoint when you think about it. We're talking about a difficulty between relationships and career. This can mean a couple of different things, but I'm going to go more towards your relationships surrounding your career, and that the people that you have formed these relationships with are not necessarily helping you to move forward in your career. So it's causing complications around moving up in your job, around getting the bonuses that you were promised, around all kinds of challenges within your career. And it sort of makes it very difficult for you to focus on a resolution because the frustrations are just so high. Here, all you want to do is put everything that you have into what you're trying to build, and everybody seems to be getting in the way. It's a very frustrating energy. But now let's go into that grand trine, which is essentially happening not quite all week long, but it does form at the beginning of the week. And we have a lot of planets that are involved in it as well. First of all, we have Mars and Mercury in Virgo, both of which are focused on your support system. Interesting layer to this problem. And then we also have Pluto, which is in Capricorn. Pluto's focus is on the mind and how you think about these things. So another interesting layer onto this problem. I tend to look at this a couple of different ways. First of all, Pluto is retrograde, And so his influence on how you think about things may make it more difficult to see where changing your perception of the situation might actually be helpful to finding the resolution that you're looking for. But also, when you've got Mercury and Mars, very much bringing this support system focus into play here. This is also what's interesting about this is that you may not be looking in the right places for the support that you need. And because you're not looking in the right places for the support that you need, you're just not getting it. You have to broaden your vision here. You have to broaden where you're looking for your support systems. Now, I have a client specifically who is a Taurus, sort of going back and forth. She'll know who she is when she hears this. I'm not going to mention your name, though. Going back and forth between the job that she has versus her own career. I would look at this as the job, again, creating more difficulties, sort of pushing you towards really focusing on your career, which the reason I'm bringing this up in the horoscopes is because I feel like this may actually apply to more than one Taurus, because a lot of the Tauruses I know, especially the Taurus ladies, you guys are driven. You guys are ambitious. You've got Mars energy driving that ambition. You're not going to stop because somebody tells you to stop. You're going to find a way around it like you always do. And that's what you need to do. Also, Uranus's grand sextile with Pluto, again, continuing to focus on the mind and how it works. And Neptune, which is focused on those you love. So we're actually moving in a completely different direction here because we're talking about relationships specifically in-house. And this is actually what's interesting about this link here is that it's those people that you actually may be more supportive of your career decisions than the people that you have formed relationships with specifically around your career. So don't discount their advice. It's actually very good advice. And the moon sort of adds to all of these elements here. Not quite the grand sextile, but the difficulty there in terms of the work relationships. The moon definitely adds an influence into that on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then moves into influencing this grand trine at the end of the week. I mean, literally the last 2 days of the week. So we have an emotional amplification on both sides. So if you really, in terms of like the stuff hitting the fan and being a big problem, probably will happen at the end of the week. As you get towards the end of the week, the emotions change completely. And it's almost like crying out of happiness instead of crying out of frustration, if that makes any sense to you guys. So that is what I have for you this week. It's a lot, but it's a lot of really good stuff too. Don't focus on the bad stuff and ignore the good stuff. Focus on the good stuff and put the bad stuff where it belongs. It's an experience that helps you grow and it helps you learn, and that's what it is, okay? So there's that. If you love your horoscopes, do click the link below and send me a coffee. You know how much I love my coffee. I am Melissa Bruce, Heavy Metal Psychic, and I will see you guys next week. You guys, I know you're going to make it a great week. You always do. Have a good one, guys.